When I realized my husband was slipping sleeping pills into my coffee every night, I decided to pretend I was asleep. What I saw that night shattered my life forever. My name is Sarah, and I never thought I'd be sharing this story. But now, a year after everything happened, I'm ready to tell you about the most terrifying nightmare of my life. It all started 6 months ago when I began noticing something was wrong with my health. I was living in Chicago, working as a financial consultant for a major corporation. My life was full and successful. I loved my job, had a thriving career, and everything seemed to be falling into place perfectly. But gradually, I started feeling like a drained battery. Every morning, I woke up exhausted, as if I hadn't slept at all. My sharp mind, which had always been my greatest asset when handling financial reports, began to fail me. Numbers blurred before my eyes, and I lost focus during critical presentations. I'll never forget the awful day when I stood in front of the board of directors and couldn't recall the name of our biggest client, Johnson, someone I'd worked with for 3 years. Mr. Thompson, my boss, looked at me with confusion, and I felt my face burn with embarrassment. "Sarah, maybe you need a vacation," he suggested after the meeting, but I heard disappointment in his voice, not concern. Things weren't any better at home. Our cozy downtown apartment, which my husband Michael and I had lovingly decorated, started feeling like a prison. Even simple chores became overwhelming. Cooking dinner felt like climbing Everest. Michael, my husband of 8 years, seemed oblivious to my struggles. Every evening when I came home exhausted, he greeted me with a warm smile and our usual ritual. "You look tired, honey," he'd say, wrapping me in a hug. "Sit down. I'll make you your favorite cinnamon coffee. It'll help you relax." And he did. Every night, Michael made me a special coffee, espresso with milk, cinnamon, and what he called a secret ingredient to ease my stress. "Drink this, my love," he'd say gently, handing me a steaming mug. "You work so hard. You need to rest." The coffee was delicious, with a slightly sweet aftertaste I initially attributed to the cinnamon. But every time I finished a cup, an overwhelming wave of drowsiness hit me. It wasn't normal fatigue after a long day. It was an unnatural heaviness, like my brain was shutting off on command. I could barely make it to the bedroom before collapsing into bed, sinking into a deep, dreamless sleep. But it wasn't refreshing. I woke up with headaches, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My dreams were strange and fragmented. I heard voices, footsteps, but couldn't tell if they were real or imagined. Sometimes I thought someone entered the bedroom, but when I tried to wake up, my eyelids felt like lead. Over time, my symptoms worsened. I forgot colleagues' names, missed important meetings, and made mistakes in calculations. I thought I was losing my mind. One morning, I tried talking to Michael about it. "Michael, I'm really worried about my health," I said, holding an unfinished cup of coffee at the kitchen table. "Maybe I should see a doctor?" He quickly sat beside me, taking my hands in his. "Honey, you're just overworked," he said convincingly. "Your job is so stressful. How about we take a weekend trip to New York? A change of scenery will do you good." His words seemed reasonable, but something inside me resisted. I noticed he always changed the subject whenever I mentioned my health. His behavior was becoming suspicious too. Michael grew nervous, constantly checking his phone, and when I entered the room, he'd quickly hide it. He'd never been secretive about his calls or texts before. "Who are you texting?" I asked one evening, catching him closing his phone screen abruptly. "Just some guys from the office." he replied, but his voice sounded off. Work stuff, you know how it is. But I knew him for 8 years, and I could tell when he was lying. His lips twitched, and he avoided eye contact. My suspicions peaked when I confided in my best friend Emily, a pharmacist who was always my go-to for health advice. We met at our favorite cafe in Lincoln Park, and she immediately noticed something was wrong. "Sarah, you look awful," she said, studying my face. "When was the last time you slept properly?" I told her everything, my constant exhaustion, memory lapses, strange dreams, and how I'd pass out every night after Michael's coffee. Emily frowned, stirring her latte. "Sarah, what you're describing sounds like the effects of sedatives," she said quietly. "Sleeping pills, tranquilizers. They can cause symptoms like yours." My heart raced. "Are you saying?" "I don't want to scare you, but some of these drugs dissolve easily in liquids and are tasteless or odorless. If someone's slipping them into your drinks—" "But it's Michael!" I exclaimed. "My husband! He wouldn't—" "Sarah," Emily interrupted, taking my hand. "I know it sounds unbelievable, but think. When did your symptoms start? Don't they coincide with when Michael began making you that special coffee?" I thought back. She was right. It started around the same time he introduced the nightly coffee ritual. "What do I do?" I asked, feeling my world crumbling. "Stop drinking the coffee," Emily said firmly. "But don't let him know. If he's really doing this, you need to be careful. Pretend to drink it, but pour it out. And watch what happens next." That evening, I returned home with a heavy heart. Michael greeted me with his usual smile and went to make the coffee. "You look especially worn out today, honey," he said, handing me the cup. "This will help." I took the mug, inhaling the cinnamon aroma, and noticed something else. A faint chemical smell, almost imperceptible. I'd never paid attention to it before. "Thank you, sweetie," I said, keeping my voice normal. "You always take such good care of me." Michael smiled, but I noticed he watched me closely, waiting for me to take a sip. I brought the cup to my lips, pretending to drink, then walked to the window as if admiring the city view. With my back to him, I quickly poured the coffee into a potted ficus. "This coffee's extra tasty tonight," I said, returning with an empty cup. "Really?" His voice had a strange edge. "Maybe I added more cinnamon." Half an hour later, I yawned and stretched. "I'm exhausted tonight," I said. "I think I'll head to bed early." "Of course, honey," Michael replied, but I saw surprise in his eyes. Usually, after the coffee, I was practically a zombie. I went to the bedroom, lay down, and waited. My heart pounded so loudly I was afraid he'd hear it. After about 30 minutes, I heard his footsteps in the hallway. He peeked into the bedroom. "Sarah?" he called softly. I didn't respond, pretending to be in a deep sleep. He came closer, shaking my shoulder. "Sarah, are you asleep?" I stayed still, barely breathing. Michael stood there for a moment, then left the room. That's when the nightmare truly began. I heard him grab my laptop. The sound of typing came from the living room. Quietly, I crept to the door and peeked through the crack. What I saw made my blood run cold. Michael was at my computer, frantically typing. My bank accounts, personal documents, and work files were open on the screen. He was copying data to a USB drive and photographing documents with his phone. I watched as he accessed my online banking and studied my accounts. Then he opened my email, reading messages from colleagues, Emily, and personal correspondence. But the worst part was when he found my will. Yes, I had a will. I drafted it 2 years ago after my mom's death. In it, I left everything to Michael, my husband, my closest person. He photographed the will, printed some documents, and tucked them into his briefcase. I saw him filling out an application for a loan in my name. My legs nearly gave out. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My husband, the man I'd loved for 8 years, trusted with my life, was stealing from me while I slept. But it didn't stop there. He pulled out his phone and started texting someone. I couldn't read the messages from where I stood, but his smug expression told me he was sharing good news. Then he made a call. He spoke softly, but I caught fragments of the conversation. Everything's going according to plan. Yeah, she doesn't suspect a thing. A couple more months, and we'll have it all. No, she won't even wake up. I've got the dosage perfect. I nearly screamed in horror. Dosage! He was drugging me! And not just randomly, he was calculating it. The conversation continued. Jessica, baby, just be patient. I know I promised you a car. Soon we'll have everything. Her money, her apartment, her insurance. No, divorce won't work. We'd only get half. My world collapsed. Jessica. He was cheating on me and planning, what? To kill me? To drive me to a breakdown with constant doses of sleeping pills? I quietly returned to bed, unable to keep pretending. My hands shook, my heart raced. I lay there with my eyes open in the dark until I heard Michael close the laptop and head to his workshop, where he sometimes slept on a fold-out couch when working late. I didn't sleep that night, planning my next steps. By morning, I knew exactly what to do. As soon as Michael left for work, I called Emily. Emily, it's an emergency, I said, barely holding back tears. You were right. Michael's been drugging me. But it's worse than that. I told her everything I'd seen and heard. Emily listened in shock. Sarah, this is serious. You're in danger. We need to act fast. I've been thinking about it all night, I said. I need a good lawyer. I know just the person, Emily exclaimed. Robert Clark. He specializes in divorce and fraud. Tough guy, but fair. I'll call him right now. 2 hours later, I was in Robert Clark's office in downtown Chicago. He was a man in his 50s with sharp eyes and gray hair. Mrs. Wilson, he said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. What you're describing isn't just infidelity. It's large-scale fraud and possibly attempted murder. I flinched at his words. Murder? Long-term use of sleeping pills can cause serious heart problems, especially with incorrect dosages. And based on your symptoms, he was giving you strong stuff. What do I do? First, immediately freeze all your accounts and cards. Second, change all your passwords. Third, we'll file a police report. And fourth, he paused. You need to disappear. If he realizes you know his plans, he could become dangerous. That same day, I followed his advice. I froze my accounts, changed my passwords, and filed a fraud report. Emily helped me pack essentials and documents. You're staying with me until this is resolved, she said, hugging me. We'll get through this together. That evening, when Michael was due home, I was safely at Emily's apartment. My phone started blowing up with his calls. Sarah! Where are you? He shouted. What's going on? Why are the accounts frozen? I know everything, Michael, I said coldly. The sleeping pills in my coffee, Jessica. Your plans to steal my money. There was dead silence. Then he spoke in a low, menacing tone. Sarah, you don't know what you're doing. Come home. We can talk this out. Talk? I laughed hysterically. Talk about how you plan to kill me? Kill you? Sarah, you're crazy. I never wanted to kill you. Then why were you drugging me? Why were you stealing my documents? Why were you applying for a loan in my name? It's not what you think. Then explain, Michael. Explain why you were talking to Jessica about my insurance. He fell silent again. When he spoke, his voice was full of rage. Fine, Sarah. You want the truth? Here it is. Yes, I have Jessica. Yes, I plan to take your money, but not to kill you. To start a new life. And the sleeping pills? I didn't want you to find out too soon. It would have hurt you. I just wanted you to sleep through the evenings while I handled the financial stuff. You nearly drove me to a breakdown. I was losing my job because of your drugs. That was a side effect. I didn't know. Liar, I screamed. You knew. You calculated the dosage. Sarah, please, come back. We can fix this. I love you. Love? My voice turned to ice. You don't know what love is, Michael. All you know is greed and betrayal. If you don't come back, I'll make your life hell, he said suddenly. I have dirt on you. Your work documents, your emails. I can ruin your career. Try it, I said. Let's see who ends up in jail. I hung up and blocked his number. The next day, Robert Clark brought good news. Mrs. Wilson, we have evidence, he said, showing me printouts. The police got a warrant to search your apartment. They found sleeping pills in the coffee left in the machine. They also found a USB with your data and forged loan documents. What about Jessica? Jessica Parker, a secretary from his office. She confessed everything when she realized she could face charges as an accomplice. They were planning to flee to Mexico with your money. My God. But there's more. Jessica said Michael planned to increase the dosage to make you completely incoherent. Then he could get guardianship over you and full access to your finances. I could barely breathe. He really was planning to destroy me. Michael's been arrested, Robert continued. The charges are serious. Fraud, document forgery, illegal use of narcotics. He's facing 5 to 10 years. I felt both relief and emptiness. The man I loved was a monster, but justice was served. The next few months were tough. I underwent detox from the sleeping pills under medical supervision. Slowly, my mind cleared, and I became the sharp, energetic woman I used to be. My boss, upon learning the situation, not only kept my job, but offered me a promotion. Sarah, what you went through shows incredible strength, he said. We need people like you in leadership. I threw myself into work, trying not to dwell on the past. I traveled, reconnected with friends, and saw a therapist. Slowly but surely, I rebuilt my life. Michael was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Jessica got 3 years probation for cooperating with the investigation. The court ordered him to pay me compensation for emotional damages. A year later, I ran into his sister Linda at a supermarket. She approached me with tear-filled eyes. Sarah, I'm so sorry, she said. I never thought my brother could do this. Please forgive him. Linda, I said gently, I've forgiven him. Not for him, but for me. Anger destroys the soul, but that doesn't mean I've forgotten or excused what he did. He says he truly loved you. Love doesn't hurt, Linda. Love doesn't betray. What he did was about greed, not love. Now, sharing this story, I realize how important it is to trust your instincts. My body and mind were signaling danger, but I ignored them because I didn't want to believe the worst. If something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it. If your health declines for no apparent reason, investigate. If your partner becomes secretive or changes their behavior, ask questions. Betrayal hurts, but the truth is always better than a lie. And remember, you're stronger than you think. I survived, rebuilt, and came out stronger than ever. I'm now dating a wonderful man, David, a psychologist who helps victims of domestic abuse. He knows my story and understands what I've been through. Our relationship is built on honesty and mutual respect. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I'll never let anyone poison my life again, literally or figuratively. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone recognize danger and find the strength to fight. You deserve it.